Yo, what's going on? It's your boy KMoE. Welcome to my channel where we talk about everything that's required for you to get out of the hole, get out of a situation of stress and debt and survivability, and get to a point where you have the courage to be able to go and follow your dreams and build the life that you desire, right? So in this video, I'm going to be sharing my journey, the beginning of my journey, and the 5 biggest takeaways that I think are required for you to get from a point of getting out of debt, getting out of a stressful situation, getting to a point to where you can just breathe, to a point of being able to, hey, I'm ready to go after all my dreams. The world is my oyster, unlimited possibilities. I think there's 5 things that are required for you to be able to get from that one point that I mentioned to the point of being able to follow your dreams. Let's get into it. All right, so my journey began when I was in high school. My friends had asked me if I could go to the movies or go to the mall, and I remember not having the money to do it. And we weren't in the worst financial situation, but I was at an age, I think I was somewhere around, like 15, 16, 17, somewhere in there, right around the age where you can begin to work and kind of get money on your own. I was right around that age. I felt like at that time, it wasn't my parents' responsibility to be able to give me money because I understood the situation that we were in. And I felt like they had already done so much for me that I didn't want to continue to ask. I felt like, all right, well, it's time for me to kind of begin to get things on my own. So that was the catalyst. Not having the money, being broke, didn't want to go to the mall and window shop. And I had to tell my friends no. I had to sit that one out. And that was really the catalyst for me. So it's the desire. So the first takeaway is desire, right? I had that desire in me to be able to want more, to mainly at that time, it was like I wanted more money, right? So it was the desire for a better financial situation. And the root of everything begins with the desire. So that's takeaway number 1. All right. So I already had the desire to want more, to want a better financial situation. But what was the next step for me? So my parents, they were both hardworking people. I was always told that, you work hard and you can benefit from the fruits of your labor. And I was told that you needed to go to school, go to college to be able to make some real money, right? So that was kind of what my parents had taught and instilled in me. So I believed that, all right, I got to go out and I got to get a job. And I had to believe that it was possible, right? There was avenues. I had already seen in my life different examples of people that was able to attain a lifestyle that I was looking to attain for myself. So the second thing, I've already said it, the second big takeaway is belief. You got to believe that there's a better possibility, that there's a better option, and that you can do it. So it starts with the desire, the want to be able to want a better, have a better situation. And then you have to believe that you can do it. And you have to believe that there are options and a way and a path for you to be able to get to that next point, to that desirable situation. So that's number 2. Takeaway number 2, belief. All right, so I had the desire to want more. I believed that I could do it. I even saw a couple avenues, right? So at that point, just to kind of go over a little bit of the story. So it started off when I was in high school. I didn't have any money. I began working and eventually going to college once I graduated, because I believed that, and I was told that college was pretty much the route that I needed to take. I got good grades and all of that. And they told me about, trade schools and things of that nature, but I never felt like I needed to seriously entertain those, because I was just always told that college was the way to go. Obviously nowadays there's many different pathways for you to be able to get to, a financial situation that you want. It doesn't always have to be college, but video for another day. So I started going to college, right? Throughout a myriad of different experiences through college, it actually ended up taking me somewhere around 7.5 years to completely graduate. So over that time, I racked up a good amount of student loan debt. And at the same time, right in around 08, 09, I think somewhere in there, I purchased a house. But the house ended up being a great investment, but It was maybe a little premature, but I say all this to say, all right, now I have credit debt. I have a little bit of credit debt just from being able to maintain, because again, at this point, I'm working full time while trying to go to college, and it was tight. I wasn't making a ton of money, and everybody has expenses. And then once I bought the house, then there's okay, well, now you have a mortgage that you got to pay. You have utilities, you have car payments, and well, I own my car, but you got insurance and those kind of things. And to be quite honest with you, there was a lot of things that I did not. I had to go without because I just didn't make enough money. So fast forward just a little bit, I graduate, right? I'm starting to make good money. And I'm working, and maybe a year and a half or so, 2 years after I graduate, I look at my financial situation and I'm like, I'm quite not where I thought I would be once I graduated college, right? And throughout the course of me beginning to work and then going through college, like the biggest thing for me was learning to budget, right? And then later, after I graduated college and I looked at my financial situation, and it was improving, but not at the speed that I thought it should. I'm like, at this pace, I'm like, it's going to be a minute. I still have these loans I have to pay. I was able to start getting the consumer debt out of the way, but it was taking a lot longer. So pretty much step 3 is budgeting and learning about financial systems. That's takeaway number 3. So like the budget is what pretty much saved me and allowed me to be able to finish college and not lose my home and been able to maintain throughout all that time. So like the budget is the foundation of in my opinion, of your personal finance situation, right? So the only way to get from a point of struggle is first you gotta write out your budget. You have to get a snapshot of what your financial situation is. You need to write out what your income is, any of your side hustles or anything like that. And then you need to write out all of your expenses. And then you need to begin to start making cuts and adjustment. And then that way you can see where your money is going. So then that's the budget part, which I think is very important. It's the foundation. You got to start there. And eventually you may get to a point of financial independence where you don't feel like you need that. But at the beginning, you really need to get everything down on paper to see where you're at. So then once you get that, and as I got towards the end of my collegiate career and graduating and getting into a Fortune 500 company and been able to make a little bit of money, now I'm at a point like, okay, well, I know I'm doing better. How can I become better? How can I get this situation, get to a point of financial stability a little bit faster, right? So that's where the personal finance come in. Well, not even just personal finance, but you got personal finance, you got like investments and things of that nature to try to accelerate, your financial situation. So you got to begin with budgeting, and then you got to start becoming financially literate. You have to start looking at the different resources that are out there. There's really no excuse now with Google, right? So that's takeaway number 3, budgets and financial literacy. All right, so now I'm graduated. I'm out of college. I began to study financial literacy, investing, ways to build wealth. Like again, that catalyst was being broke back in the day, but really I want to get to a situation where, for me personally, I want myself and the people I love around me to be in a point where they're not struggling, that check to check, that state of what I call survival mode. So 1, 2, and 3 is takeaways 1, 2, and 3. We're all in that like survivor mode portion, right? So once I got to a point to where I became more financially literate, it took a little bit of time, a couple more years outside of being graduated, to where I began to create some breathing room based on everything that I've learned, right? So once that breathing room happened, and that's really the key, is you got to get out of a point where you feel like you're surviving and you're just struggling. It's very hard to think about, your capabilities, your ultimate possibilities, and all of these different things that you can do when, you're just barely making ends meet, or you're struggling, or you got a lot of financial stress. And I hate to keep bringing up finances, but that's really like the thing here that really holds a lot of us back, is that, we have this financial stress, and then we also have like family stress and everything else. But it all starts with finances. It all starts with being able to have a place to live, food to eat, clothes on your back, all of that thing. It all starts there. So if you can eliminate that stress, then it just opens up time and energy to be able to deal with everything else that you have to. But it's hard to deal with, family and kids and following your dreams and building the life you want and wealth and opulence and all. It's hard to think about any of that when you're just like, man, I don't know where my next meal's coming. I don't know how I'm gonna pay this bill. So that's why we got to stress that. So moving on in the story, I finally got to a point where I got out of what I call survival mode. I got out of the hole. My favorite saying is I had to get out of the hole. So I finally got to a point where I was able to create a little breathing room. And at that point, I also began to, because I had, I was more relaxed from not having to stress out about, how I was going to pay bills, and I was able to do things like travel and things of that such. I began to just grow more, right, and learn. And at that time, I began, kind of coming across my heritage and my cultural history. And at that point, I started looking at history a lot more, and then looking at, the U.S. and how other cultures, kind of live. And you kind of begin to see in history that, history is taught by, from different perspectives. So there's a saying that history is taught, is the story of the winner, right? But I was beginning to probe through history and just kind of found a lot of lies, and deceit. And even in our own, even in the U.S., there's a lot of things that's what we call trickery. It's the game. Like, you got to play this game, and not everybody wants you to know the rules to the game. So I began to look at that, and I began to look at, some of the social media content. Since I was able to breathe, I always had this thing in the back of my mind of being a rapper, right? I've started rapping when I was in 7th grade, and nobody knew, and outside of a few people. Throughout the course of my life, when I decided to put that dream down because I didn't see a financial future in it and went to college, when I put that dream down, man, that thing always ate at me. I just had this regret, always had this nagging regret of not at least keeping up with it. Like, even if I didn't decide to just make it a full-on career, I just kind of really limited myself and didn't even make it a possibility. And that always really nagged at me, especially as I got older and I was able to see how I could have done it, right? All it would have took was just a little perseverance and continual learning, right? So putting all that together, I began to see that anything is possible, right? So that's takeaway number 4. Takeaway number 4 is anything is possible. Once you get to a point where you can get out of survival mode, you can see that anything is possible. Like, all of the wonderful stories that we have of, dating back years and centuries of humans that have done extraordinary things, there's no reason to believe that you can't do the same thing. The only thing that can limit you is yourself. So takeaway number 4, anything is possible. All right, so now that we've established that anything is possible, so the world is your oyster, right? For me, for the dream of being a rapper, for being a musician, I was already pretty old at this point, right? I was approaching my 30s, might even been 30, but definitely approaching my 30s at this point. And it's like, man, that shit doesn't sell, man. Like, what, you picked a fine time. We had just had the birth of our first child. And it was like, you picked a fine time to want to try to go after this dream, right? Go after this dream of being a rapper. And hey, it is what it is. I just decided to go for it. I got obviously goals of where I want to be professionally and all of that, but you got to start somewhere. And I just could not let that regret just nag at me. Like, it would have been something that if I would have let, continue to live my life, that would have always been the one thing that I just didn't feel good that I gave up on it, And I was still writing and making songs here and there throughout the years, but I never really gave it the time and attention for what I loved, you know what I mean? So you gotta keep going, and you gotta realize that it's never too late. It's never too late. So that's takeaway number 5. It's never too late. It is never too late to continue to follow your dreams, to go after your dreams. To sum all that up, it's like, if I would have just believed that anything is possible, right, from the beginning, I had an idea, but I really based what I believed was possible on what people told me, on kind of what I saw, and that's such a limited view. Like, I had to open my horizons. I needed to think big. Like, you need to think big. So it still begins with desire. I mean, you need to have a belief, but that belief needs to include the fact that anything is possible, right? And you have to believe that it's never too late. Now, the one thing that I'll say about, it not being too late, at this point, I took that chance. I went out, I got my gear, I learned how to mix, learned how to master. I can write my own stuff. I put out songs. Have I reached the level of acclaim that I would have liked? No, but I took my time and I actually went after it and I did it. And I can say that I did it. That regret of not doing it is no longer there. And the thing about it is, okay, maybe I'll never be a Drake, right? I'll never be a Kendrick. I'll never be a J. Cole, but I'll be me, right? I'll be KMoE, right? And whatever that ends up being is going to be beautiful. And then I'll have that story to tell to somebody else that they can take and realize that nothing is limited to them, and they can learn from my mistake. You know what I mean? And that's really what I'm trying to do here, is, like, to sum it up, you need to have that desire, right? You need to have that belief. And in that belief that you have, believe that anything is possible and that it's not too late. And then you have to make sure that you get your finances straight. So I know it's kind of a weird pairing of, kind of a spiritual, mental, emotional, mindset type situation on one end, but you cannot forget the financial, because in the world we live in, you gotta have some proficiency in both of them, right? So hopefully the takeaway is you got the 5 takeaways, right? You got desire, belief, budgeting, and finance. You got anything is possible and it's never too late, right? You have all of those, but, reorder that in such a way that, you can take that anything is possible and it's never too late, and kind of put that on the front end, so that now when you have your vision, it's the vision that you want it to be. And then all after that, you need to just be persistent and not give up, and you'll be well on your way. So that's pretty much what we got going on here. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. And excuse me, my voice is a little raspy, but again, thanks for checking me out, checking this video out. If you got any questions, please drop me a line. If there's any takeaways from your own journey that you want to share with the community, drop a comment. If you've liked this video and you look forward to seeing content similar to this, go ahead and subscribe. I am a musician, so I do actually drop some music, so you'll see a little bit of music content as well, but a lot of the content that you can expect to see from me is really around everything that's required for you to follow your dream. So spiritual, mental, physical, emotional, financial, health, mindset, personal development, everything that you can do and take your life into your hands and start shooting for the outcomes that you desire. So I'll stop rambling. I appreciate y'all, man. This was good. This was fun. And I'll holler at y'all next time, man. Peace and love. Yeah.